Today on Gamers Couch,
Legendary Marvel, a deck building game. Or a Marvel deck building game. Welcome, fellow superheroes.
hello, welcome to
We
the
are
couch.
very happy that you heeded our call to defend the Earth and other realms from evil guys. Similar to Chopstick Man, as you may have seen in the thumbnail, or the other guy, the one who has only one eye. I think Pirate Man or something like that.
Him? Oh, did you? Oh. I'm falling apart, both shoulders. I hope the mic didn't pick it up. Or did, otherwise this would be totally confusing.
Oh, I was, but I don't recall what knack is in English.
Crunch?
Um,
No, not really. Oh, whatever. You heard the sound, probably. Welcome to the couch.
it's Knack Girl.
Yes. Yes, I'm not bendy. That's my superpower. My name is Sarah. I'm the Knack Girl in this scenario. And this, devastated creature next to me is Daniel, my sweet husband, who was kind enough to, have the chopstick Wolverine kind of a thing for the thumbnail. Thanks, sweetheart,
Daniel.
for being so goofy.
Daniel by day and
Chopstick Man by night.
probably also by night, yeah.
The chopsticker. No, that sounds dirty for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Anyway, we're talking board games, among other things. Today we talk about Marvel Legendary, and we'll talk about rules and gameplay general. That's his part to explain to you. Then we talk about what we liked or not liked about this game and finish up with funny stories and experiences. And we have a tiny teaser for you for the new Draw for Initiative that will come out next week. And after that, for 8 weeks, there won't be any teasers for the Draw for Initiative because you cannot really tease a podcast, can you? Probably not. I mean, maybe I come up with something, but probably we will resume the teasers 8 weeks later. So, my dear, don't
I like
cry.
the teasers.
I know, but that's why we should record the podcast, because Tina and I need at least 8 weeks to, prep new episodes and have a very special one at that we're working on.
Because,
And I can't tell, and I so want to, and I
then
can't.
I have to tease you, because by that time you certainly have forgotten what you have painted already.
No, because I learned one thing after that week that I wasn't sure about the episode that we're going to tease. Before
There's
we
a schedule
record,
now.
no, but there's always a schedule. There has always been. But before we record this Gamers Couch, I always take a look up what is scheduled to be published
works.
next. Yes,
And now let's
so
have
smart.
Let's have a perfect segue. Let's also have a look at the rules of Legendary, a Marvel deck building game. Join us on our travel back in time, because we are kind of, counter chronologically working our way backwards through the Legendary releases since, not quite. We started at Alien or Legendary Encounters, and then moved forward to Legendary Predator, and now we're moving back to Legendary Marvel. So you see that we may not have bought them in the correct order, or
Is there a correct order?
well, I mean, this is, I think, the most popular one, probably, of the
I'd say so
Legendary
too.
systems. And also fitting, I guess, with, at least at the time of this recording, Civil War, the movie hasn't been out or hasn't come out yet. So this
But
is...
it will in a few weeks, right?
it is probably next week or something.
End of April or early
The
March?
first reviews are out for press viewing, so
Yeah, so it should be only a couple of weeks. And then we go to Civil War. Oh, again, shoulder.
Civil Knack.
I'm not gonna move. I'm gonna make the T-Rex and move like this. I'm sorry, guys.
Just to make this certain, this is the base game, so there is actually I think an upcoming Civil War expansion or a standalone game for Legendary. This is not that. we are just really old school. We're going back to the very roots of
Future of
legendary
the past of the, what was the second film called?
Wrong film studio. This is not a Fox movie.
No. Like
Days of Future Past is X-Men, not by Marvel Film Studios.
Yes, but it had something to do with the timeline twist. That's why I thought it would be fitting. No? I'm sorry.
Welcome, superheroes!
Again, trying to start. Go!
Let us defend the Earth from villain masterminds that try to ruin everything, where they attempt to bring their schemes, their evil schemes in motion, and will rely on their villain and henchmen to fight against, Earth's best. That's probably not you and me, but there's some superheroes in this game which we will pretend to be, and therefore, hopefully make it successfully. Now, the first thing when I opened the box that I was shocked by to see is this, because if you've seen our other legendary things, usually we play with what we call the mouse mat or the mouse mat. This is a kind of regular board, or actually this is a very sturdy board, at least sturdier than most other game boards. That it's not heavy.
No, it's not, but I had to. Come on. It's a butterfly board.
This is the board. Unfortunately, it's like almost 1/6 of the board is not very much in use, but we will talk about this anyway. So, in comparison to the other games, you may find some similarities, but I'll just pretend as if you don't even know who I am and are just looking into this. So, here we have our HQ where our superheroes will gather. We can recruit them from here. We have our evil mastermind on this side.
I'm not the evil mastermind. Don't look at me and say we have the evil mastermind on this side. It might be true in real life, but not in board games.
Please, shut.
For God's sake.
Put the escape villains in front of your face. So, we have the mastermind over here. This is the guy we ultimately wanted to beat to win this game. We have an entire city down here where the bad guys will come from this villain deck and try to go through the city, starting through the sewers and going down to the bridge. If we don't stop them, they might escape over here. There's also bystanders, innocent civilians that may get taken hostage, and we have to free them or not and be really shitty superheroes. And then there's this space, which is kind of the largest discard pile space that you can imagine, as well as our refresh supply of heroes. So there's only 5 heroes at the HQ at one time, or 5 hero cards to be perfectly clear, and the rest is in the hero deck. Why there's only 5 guys on deck? Well, superhero business is sometimes mysterious. And down there on the left is the shield, the shield officer. It's Mariah Hill, which you can also recruit, which is kind of the constant type of card that you can recruit. But please keep on holding that.
Oh.
There's
Next time, say something before throwing the board at me.
A nice reminder on how to play this game and how to set it up. But don't worry, we'll go really quick through that by now. So, you can play this, if you want, theoretically, pretty much alone, although it's more fun to play with other people. Each of you will get these starting cards, actually a couple of these to be honest, and as with all the legendary games, some produce these star icons, I hope you can see them, and some produce these strike icons. Star icons are used to purchase new cards to modify your deck, or better said, to recruit heroes or have hero actions in your deck that you can play. The strike items, the strike icons are played to defeat foes, and ideally you get enough together to, attempt at fighting the mastermind. Now, one of the bigger things in this game is you, at the beginning, will choose which mastermind you want to play against. There's Loki, and I'm just talking about this base set. There's the Red Skull, Magneto, Doctor Doom, and that's it. These master strikes are actually not. I'll get to them in a minute. And each mastermind has like one face card that will always be up there, and that says mastermind. You can see you need 8 strikes to hit him once. And then there's these tactic cards, which are usually not something useful to the mastermind, but useful to whoever wins against him or beats him. So each time you deal damage to Magneto, let's say 8 damage, you at random will take one of these cards and get the effect that's on it. So let's say you produce 8 strikes, hit him once, and you draw Xavier's Nemesis. So this one says, for each of your X-Men heroes, rescue a bystander. So you would take a look at this. This fight effect takes place right after you dealt the damage to him. And then you can check out, do you have a lot of X-Men heroes? And heroes usually have an icon up here. Black Widow is obviously not an X-Men, but an Avenger. So if this shows the X-Men icon, you would get a free bystander, and that goes into points at the end of the game. I'll get to that in a second. So there's 4 tactics cards, meaning if you beat him up 4 times, he is defeated, and, well, you have won. Congratulations, you're a superhero. So what does the villain try to do to win the game? Well, the other thing you draw either at random or select are these schemes. You select one of them. The game comes with 8 different ones, and they all kind of twist up the game a little bit. So, for example, if you're playing the scheme Unleash the Power of the Cosmic Cube, maybe Loki would be a really good or well-fitting villain for that, or the Red Skull if you're trying to, replay the cinematic universe. This scheme comes with its own setup instruction, as does every scheme. In this case, it usually tells you how many of these scheme twist cards go into the villain deck, and whenever you draw one of these twist cards at your turn, you will do whatever is on this card. So if you've seen our other videos, this is a little bit like the events or the hazard cards that you've seen in Alien or Predator. So here this says, whenever you draw a twist, put the twist next to this scheme. If you have drawn twist number 5 or 6, each player gains a wound. If you draw the 7th twist, each player gains 3 wounds. And if you, pulled out the 8th twist, you just plain out lose. So you want to beat up the mastermind, the evil guy, before 8 twist cards came out of the deck. And since this is all randomly shuffled together, I hope for you that you shuffled well. Because unlike the Alien or the Predator game, the villain deck is randomly composed and not stacked. So let's talk a little bit about the villain deck. As I said, there's the setup instructions on the game board, but you also have them on here. So before starting to play, you take a look at how many players are there. And let's say you're playing with the maximum listed here, 5 players. You will need 4 villain groups, 2 henchmen groups, and 12 bystanders, and obviously the scheme twist cards that go in there as per the scheme definition. Some other cards, like the Mastermind, might also affect how the composition of the villain stack looks like, but not that much. So let's say we stick with this. 4 villain groups, 2 henchmen groups, 12 bystanders. 4 villain groups means there's different types of villains in this game. Each of these groups has a couple of cards. There's, for example, the villain radiation card. The leader just happens to be one of those. There's the spider foes, and obviously Venom is part of them. There's the Masters of Evil featuring Baron Zemo. The enemies of Asgard with the Enchantress, some Frost Giants, and some other guys. There's the Brotherhood, which is fitting to Magneto, in this case Mystique. There's some Skrulls, if you want to have some doppelganger, secret hidden role identity action. And last but not least, Hydra. Now, each mastermind also demands at least a specific villain group to be there. Magneto says, always leads Brotherhood. So when you compose the villain deck, you select up to 4 of these villain groups, but one of them has to be the Brotherhood. And then you also pick the henchmen. Henchmen are very similar to villain groups, but I guess are the general purpose evil guy. So these work for everyone, and you have, for example, the Doombot Legion, or the Hand Ninjas, or the Sentinels, or Savage Land Mutants, and therefore you can mix things up a little bit. So unlike and with the Predator or the Alien thing, where it tries to follow the movie plot or suggests that, here everything is a little bit more randomized. You pick your villain, you pick your scheme, or you draw one random, but there's no necessarily set thing that you're recommended to play out. And to be fair, you don't have to do that in the Alien game, and it says so, but you the game has objectives and you want to follow them, and usually you have sets of cards that correspond to each other and you want to use them all too well together. Here it's just the mastermind demands at least one villain group to be present, or a henchman group in some cases. And the scheme might have some effect on what you're going to do with the villain deck as well. You'll also put bystanders into the deck, and bystanders are just these guys. They all look the same. They don't do much, usually.
They're standing by.
If you draw the top card of the villain deck, and I'll get to what happens on your turn soon enough, if you draw a bystander, you just put the bystander under the closest villain nearby, and now he has taken a hostage. If there's no guy in the field, you just put this behind the evil mastermind, and now the mastermind has a hostage. These are basically just worth points at the end of the game. You want to liberate them by, defeating the guy who's taking this hostage. The bystander obviously travels with the villain along the city track, and if the villain escapes with the bystander,
bad news.
Bad for the heroes. You may not be a proper hero if that happens. Now, the game doesn't say that explicitly, but I do. So
no shawarma for you in the end.
Feel guilty for not rescuing maybe potential bystanders in your future. Or past, whatever. Feel guilty retroactively. Now, to do all that, or to prevent that from happening, I said you start out with these 2 guys, and they're not very useful. It's just one strike icon and one of these star icons. You can buy Mariah Hill, and trust me, you're just buying her expertise in the field. You're not buying her. So she will provide you with 2 stars, which is, still not that much. More interesting is to buy actual heroes. And in a typical game, you would just select 5 heroes out of all those that are available in the game and shuffle up that stack into the hero deck. You may have at your disposal Black Widow, or Captain America, or Cyclops, or Pirate Man, Deadpool, who is not commenting at your behavior all the time or how you're progressing in the game, just a fair warning. Emma Frost, Gambit, Hawkeye, without having a sexy pose in this one, the Hulk, Iron Man, Nick Fury, And it's the Samuel Jackson-Nick theory, in case you're wondering. Rogue, or rouge if you're saying the French word wrong. Because she's rogue, she's not a.
I know,
she's not
but
red.
It would be the right pronunciation for that word, for those letters in that sequence, if you'd speak French and not English in that moment.
Things that are totally unrelated to that but might amuse you. I had a colleague who was referring to a security incident in IT and was referring to a rouge access point. And we were always asking if that was a Wi-Fi access point that was into cosmetics or something.
You have to tell me who that was off camera.
You have Storm, and I'll just finish the hero thing. Spidey, Thor, and Chopstick Man. Well, Wolverine, obviously.
Sorry.
As I said, you pick 5 out of those, and they have different costs attached to them. So if you want to recruit the Silent Sniper Black Widow, this card specifically, this costs $7, but she will provide you with 4 strike icons, which is pretty good. And also a card effect here that says defeat a villain or mastermind that has a bystander. By the way, if you defeat the mastermind, you immediately liberate all the bystanders in there. But this card can be really powerful if you have a lot of bystanders in the game. And actually, there's some of her other cards bring more bystanders into the game. And, well, you bring people, or you kind of bait the villain out with innocent people, which may be morally ambiguous, but it's Black Widow, so if the results are in and everything works out at the end, you're not a scumbag, but a hero. Or you have Captain America, who usually benefits from having a lot of other people in here, kind of being his shtick of leading a team of heroes. So this one gets +1 strike icon for each color of hero you have, and you already see he's green, Black Widow here is black, Deadpool in this is red, and so you will come across different colors doing that. So you want to buy these cards, which brings me to what do you actually do on your turn? Well, it is incredibly simple. At first, you reveal the top card of the villain deck and do whatever it says you have to do. If it's a villain, you just gets into the city and maybe pushes other villains further along the track. If it's a bystander, you just put the bystander under the next villain or the mastermind. If it's a scheme twist, you do whatever the scheme card tells you to do. And that's pretty much it. Then you may get to play what cards you have in hand. You usually always have 6 cards in hand, and you decide in which order you want to play them, and then execute whatever actions are attached to that, to either strike a card in the field, or attack the mastermind, or to recruit further hero cards, to use later. All cards that you recruit go to your discard pile, and once you run through your deck of cards once, it's a deck building game, you shuffle those cards, and that's how those new cards get into your hand soon. If you defeat a villain or rescue a bystander, those go onto your trophy pile, and most cards have a little number attached to them, so rescuing a bystander is worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. Let me see if I can find someone who's worth a little bit more. The Supreme Hydra, or Hydra Supreme, is worth 3 points plus X, because this says Supreme Hydra is worth 3 additional victory points for each other Hydra villain in your victory pile. Also, he is actually quite difficult to defeat, but can ramp up your victory points a lot if you manage to defeat a lot of Hydra guys in there. Which brings me to what else you have to do to win the game. At its base, this is a cooperative game, so you want to defeat the masterminds, otherwise everybody else loses. Same goes for if you don't manage to avert all twist or scheme cards being played, you usually lose the game. Or if I think the villain pile runs out, you also lose the game. So there's a lot of ways to lose the game. Some scheme cards introduce additional conditions that may have you lose the game, like if the hero deck runs out of cards or stuff like that, or if the wound cards are empty or something like that. So at its base, it's a cooperative game, but as with real superheroes in the comics and movies, you have a little bit of competition with your fellow heroes, and that's kind of the competitive aspect, because you truly win the game at the end if you have the most points, the most victory points, the most honor points, however you want to call them. So it's not too far off from, well, the comics or the movies where you have those heroes when they say, this is not a competition, but it totally is a competition. And they try to who can best the most villains, or who can rescue the most bystanders, who can take down the villain, the mastermind most of the time. Making it kind of in comparison where, let's say, Predator is a cooperative game or a competitive game with more of a competitive aspect, even if you there's no way for everybody to lose at the same time in Predator. It's all about who has the most honor at the end of the game. This still is more on the cooperative side with a little bit of competition in there. And you can totally ignore that if you want to, or you could even go so far and say, hey, we are working as a team, so we just count together all the points that we have as a kind of personal high score, if that is what you want to play, or if you're playing with the kids and don't want to have people dead at the table because they start murdering each other because, well, kids. That's what kids do, right?
Murder each other?
Yes.
Only over chocolate.
Okay.
So I heard.
Crap. Well.
No, but there's ways to
silence them?
The base game
like
of
chloroform
Legend.
And
Fart? No.
that's also a way. Yeah. So since I already brought them up, there's these wound cards. So some of the villains may hurt you, or some card effects say take a wound. These go into your discard pile typically and just clog up your hand, but you can get rid of them if you don't buy anyone or any new card, or don't attack any villains. So these are just more of a nuisance. They're not as dangerous as in Legendary Encounters, where if you get too many wounds, your character dies and you're out of the game. These are superheroes at last.
They don't die.
They don't die, or if they do, they come back in a reboot or some other fashion or form or something like that. That's pretty much it. The game isn't actually too difficult in terms of rules, and most of those specific schemes add their own little rules and twists and whatnot in here. So when I read to you the Cosmic Cube, that is a very easy one. Let's see. There's, for example, something like this. Secret Invasion of the Skrull Shapeshifters. And this says you need 8 twists, 6 heroes, and the Skrull villain group. So this is actually the scheme that's requiring the Skrull to be present. And you need to shuffle 12 random hero cards from the hero deck into the villain deck because, well, obviously Skrull doppelgangers are among them and you don't know if they're heroes or not. Little pro tip, if they come out of the villain deck, they are not heroes. But this says, a special rule, heroes in the villain deck count as Skrull villains. Heroes in the villain deck count as Skrull villains with strikes equal to the hero's buying cost +2. And if you defeat that hero, you gain it. If you play a twist card, the highest hero from HQ moves into the sewers as a Skrull villain. So actually some of the heroes in your HQ now may also be potential bad guys. And evil wins if 6 heroes get into the escaped villains pile. So potentially this scheme can take a little bit longer because it's not a hard cut where it says, well, if twist 8 is out, the game is over. But this is kind of dependent on how many of the evil guys are escaping. So these schemes may or may not modify the gameplay in a more substantial way. I don't think the evil masterminds do that to that extent that much. Most just say, well, like Dr. Doom is saying, he always leads the Doombot Legion, and I haven't explained that yet, so I will do that now. So the Mastermind cards also have a game effect on here that is called a Master Strike. What you'll do is you'll shuffle these Master Strike cards into, well, surprise, the villain deck as well. And they're pretty much like the Scheme Twist cards, but instead trigger whatever is said on the Mastermind card. So Dr. Doom, for example, will, as a Master Strike, cause you to, if you have exactly 6 cards in your hand, and if you cannot reveal a tech hero, I think that is, I'm sorry, it's from the legendary encounter. These are the tech guys. So if you don't have a hero with that chip icon, you have to put 2 cards from your hand on top of your deck. So he's just reducing your hand size, which is annoying. Other bad guys are, let's say, the Red Skull. And the Red Skull is saying his Master Strike is each player has to KO a hero from their hand. KO in this case means leaving the game, so that's not that great. Well, maybe it is if you want to get rid of those cheap guys who are not very useful, so maybe Red Skull is helping you there? That would be cruel, but it would be as cruel as Nick Fury would be by getting rid of the people who are not performing that well. Maybe be better at your next employee review.
Yeah,
talk,
who knows?
Something.
Who knows? Yeah. Oh well. Before we go into the next section, can you quickly say the player numbers and stuff and have
what? Do we now start with these things? Actually, I want to...
Yeah, well, because I just remembered, so otherwise I would forget, and talk a bit about the manual. Was it easy?
I think I already said it. So this says 1 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, and 30 to 60 minutes, which I think is pretty
accurate, I'd say.
We haven't played this with 5. We pretty much only played it with 2 so far. But
because we're superheroes enough.
Yeah.
We cannot deal with the Hulk and others in our group of Avengers. It's just the Pepper Potts and Iron Man or something. I don't know. Whatever.
Given that this version of Legendary is actually... I still think it's simpler than the Legendary Encounters or Legendary Predator thing. There's less going on, or even though it is a little bit more general and you have a little bit more randomization in your setup, the setup itself is actually
the same.
Feels to me a little bit simpler because you don't have to pay attention to the stacks and do the things combine and all that.
You can pretty much just shuffle the whole stack in setup.
It's a rather big manual, but it makes that up by going into detail again over specific game effects. So it was quite easy to understand, especially if you played any other of those legendary games beforehand. Not to being on the rating thing, but it's a good way to start into the legendary series. And one thing I want to show you, which... I kind of dreaded when I got this.
This is the first point of my liking section.
It is every dislike point we had so far with Legendary Encounters was, the card organization, the box insert is terrible. And now look at this.
They're able to make it. So please, Encounter people, do it for the other games as well.
And now I'm surprised because this is supposedly older than the Encounter, so they moved away from this to the other thing.
The non-existent insert. It's like, there is none.
There's still things that are not great.
Oh, there's a hair. I'm sorry.
You still have to write your own dividers and figure out how you want to store that.
This is way better.
And this has a lot of... Maybe this is a revision of
Who knows? I don't know.
This has, and this is pretty much everything you get in the box. So there's plenty of space for expansions, and there's a lot of expansions. So if you want to combine stuff into the box, this is actually pretty good. Well, if you would have the dividers with actual things on them, but well, whatever.
Oh well. You have to be able to distinguish Sentinels of the Multiverse from Legendary. I don't know. Whatever. Let's go into the likes and dislikes section. And since you talked so much, I will tell you now, my dear.
I'm already woozy.
Breathe. I will tell you now what I like or not like. I like you, for one, and I like to play this game with you. First point that we already talked about, and that was a big plus on my personal scale, was the insert. There is one, it's awesome, and though I do prefer the mouse pads from the other
I do too. Yeah.
Legendary games, I'm fine with this one, even with the big KO zone where you think, oh, this is just wasted space. It kind of is, but then you can throw things and don't have to stack them, so also, I'm fine with it.
If you're doing a board version, this is really good.
Yeah.
Now, if you remember way back then when we talked about Thunderstone Numenera, our complaint was about the board being a little bit too flimsy. And
yeah, it was just card stock.
And there we have the direct comparison and saying, well, we just had the mousepad from Legendary Encounters and we really liked that, and we were really disappointed with that. This is kind of the, if you want to go to cardboard,
for it.
This is the one.
Yes, this is the stuff to produce. All of you publishers who are very likely be watching this video, this is what you go for if you don't go for the mousepad. Don't go for the poster.
Also, I just realized that, hey, talk about what you like or dislike with the game. The first thing is doesn't have to do anything with the gameplay itself. It's like, here are the inserts.
That's the thing, though. You open up the box and you look at the components first before you even start playing. So things like good quality, a nice look fitting for the game, and a very good manual is key for a good playing experience. That's what I think, and I stand by that for as long as I live. Coming to the artworks, I mean, gorgeous, of course, like all the Legendary games that we've seen so far. They had a lot of very lovely material to work from with Marvel, so bravo, very well done. This is the copy that we have also is very well done with the quality of the cards. There's no misprint, nothing like we had the mishap with Predators. We didn't have any problems at all when it came to the quality and the publishing part of the game. Now for the game itself. I will very heavily compare it to Legendary Encounters Alien and Predator just because it is in the same family.
Well, it's a legendary.
It's a legendary game. Though I have to say, it's very much like the Legendary Encounters Alien and Predator.
But there's nuances between all three of them.
I think this one stands on its own the most. Because it's, for one, it is a different universe. Mm-hmm. It is a different franchise when it comes to comics or movies. And it plays most randomly in comparison to the other games. Like the thing that you said, with the other two legendaries, you would stack the piles to follow the movies along as much as you can. With this one, you pretty much just select your villains and your heroes, and you can really randomize the decks and just play and have either the movie scenarios or the comic scenarios or your own scenarios. So I think this game stands alone a bit in the Legendary games, and I like it. It's not the same thing again.
I think the thing that comes closest would be the Predator mode in Legendary Predator, where you're hunting and you randomly
Yes,
pick out
yes.
what you're
There's
hunting.
things of the game that I think are closer to Alien, and there's some that are closer to Predator, and I like them both. So the competitive mode of Predators is pretty much very close to this game when it comes to tallying up the victory points in the end and being the superhero, and not only the superhero that wins the game, but the way you work cooperative, I think, was more towards the Alien movie. So when we played Alien, when we played Predator cooperative, we communicated a bit more, I think, in the Alien game, and we kind of communicated more with this one as well, like me telling you, oh, you could kill that one. I have enough cards to kill the other dude, no matter if it would maybe give me more victory points to kill a certain villain or not, or whatever. So the co-op mood at the table was a bit more with this one, just like it was with Alien and not so much with Predator. But then again, in the Predator video, I said that I liked that game more for its competitive mode, not so much the co-op mode. And I like that there is no competitive mode here, but it feels very much like the competitive mode of Predator.
It is.
But it feels more co-op to me.
It is competitive if you're playing with the victory points. But that said, what is missing here is a way to hurt other players. Mm-hmm. So there's no direct duel mechanic as
that's why it feels more co-op to me than it does competitive.
And in Predator, there's no way to lose the game if kind of everybody loses. Let's say if your prey wins in Predator, well, then you all died, but still the one who died most honorably wins the game. Again,
on the scale of competitiveness, Predator would be 1, this one would be 2, and Alien would be spot number 3, if at all. But going for the co-op mode, Alien is 1, Marvel is 2, and Predator is spot number 3 for me. Funny enough, there is a select co-op mode for Predator, I feel this one, it just feels more co-op to me. I know it's weird, but I like that about this game.
I have to say about this is more gameplay impressions, but
it's alike, is it?
If we have to compare them, this is way less stressing than Alien is or Predator is. Alien,
the easy mode.
So Legendary Encounters and Legendary Predator are very
intense.
They're demanding in terms of you need to know what you're up against and how to deal with them. But that comes with there being a scenario. You have to fight through the jungle to find the enemy camp and then try to whatever do that. There's nothing like that here. That's kind of the cost you have to pay for having those randomized decks or combinations out of masterminds and schemes. That said, this is the thing that I really like about this game.
Right.
I like the variability of having a totally different mastermind each time, and the scheme thing that adds a little bit of more mechanical stuff in there.
And I like that it is, or it feels easier and like the easy mode of Predator or Alien, because I'm not always in the mood for playing such a heavy and involved and intense game.
It's draining.
But still, I do like the mechanics and the gameplay well enough that I want that particular thing. So I can then say, babe, let's play Legendary Marvel. It's the easy mode version of this kind of a game. And I like that even more because I don't want a third game that is that intense and in the same mechanic and way as the other 2 Legendary Encounters are. So I like that though it is in the Legendary family, it kind of the other two are over here, and Marvel is right here. So it's like a cousin. It's not
and
the same thing.
Fair enough. This game doesn't have to follow any movie. It just has a couple of villains, a couple of heroes, and that's kind of what makes it so random. This is not following, let's say, the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. You could try to match that up. Certainly, you can play against Red Skull and the Cosmic Cube. And then select the heroes from the movie, but it does not follow the objectives that you would have in one of the other Legendary games.
Yes.
I also have to say, I very much, and this is kind of now standard with those Legendary games, I very much like the artwork. However, small dislike. The hero cards only have one illustration for all of the cards. So, for example, this illustration is the same on all the Cyclops cards, and I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty sure the other two games had unique images per card per...
No. Right? They had maybe 2 or 3, but they didn't have a different... image on every different card, but I guess
when the text is different, then there was a different image.
You mean that? Yeah, I guess that's right. If I remember correctly, I'm not 100% sure.
Let's do a couple. What? And we checked. Yes, they are different. So in those games, there's so many cool, illustrations and things from the Marvel Universe. It feels a little bit strange that they're so limited. But that said, I'm assuming that this was kind of their first foray into having this thing like Legendary Marvel. And I mean, there's a bunch of expansions that came out later that probably remedy that problem.
And they have the color thing here that they don't have in the other games. Like you have, for example, whom do we have? Cyclops. You have a yellow one, a red one, a green one. So I guess... I'm actually wondering now if it would be weird to the eye or not that you have a different color and a different kind of artwork on a certain card, or if you would just if you don't know any different, it's just that's what it is. I'm not
I
sure.
don't.
But maybe when you have the expansions and you can mix the expansions with the base game, that then you maybe have different poses of the heroes that you play. I don't know. Maybe. But that was a difference,
Yeah, it's just there's such a rich universe to pick stuff from. It seems weirdly limited to have only one image per character. But yeah, that said,
it makes it easier when you divide the cards after playing into one pile again.
But interestingly enough, they don't do that for the villains.
Really?
You have one of each there, but let me grab. So these are the enemies of Asgard, and I think you have Enchantress there. She's
over there.
So you have the Frost Giants here. Another enemy is the Destroyer, talking about the MCU, or more Frost Giants. And while cards that are identical are use the same illustration, but there are different illustrations in here. So that's it's weird to some extent that they do that for the bad guy cards. But if I had to choose, I would prefer as they did. So if one of those two had to be a little bit more shuffled up kind of with the artwork, then I prefer the villain guys to be that, because those are the cards that lay out in front of everybody.
And it's different kinds of villains, though they are in the same group, villains of Asgard, but you just have one hero. There's only one Cyclops, for example. Having him with a different kind of pose or thing that he does on the cards.
And
I think it makes way more sense this way.
And I get it. You're supposed to recruit a hero, but you kind of recruit that hero's action, if that makes sense. And that plays off for some heroes. So there are some heroes that excel at, you have a lot of their action cards because they're kind of the lone wolf, Wolverine intended.
Remind me of that when we go into the experiences, because that's actually one thing that I want to cover. Just remind me that I don't forget.
Apart from that, I'm thinking really hard. I mean, you already went in.
I covered a lot. I'm sorry. For me, this game still has its own place. This wouldn't replace any of the other Legendary games for me. No. It's interesting that while they kind of all are the same and use the same system, that they managed to carve out their little space in terms of gameplay design, where they feel different. And those go out for totally different target audiences. If I had to pick a game now, a deck building game that has a little bit more going on in terms of theme and stuff than, let's say, Dominion, this is the one I would pick. If it's not supposed to be too difficult or too frustrating at certain times. Then again, if I want to have a challenging co-op experience, more of a campaign kind of a feel, I would pick one of the others because they feel more campaigny to me than this one does.
I was about to say, if I want something that's a little bit more challenging in terms of regards of co-op, I would go with the Legendary Encounters Alien game. If I wanted something that is a little bit more spicing things up between the player interaction, I probably would go with the Predator competitive mode.
I just remembered two things. One thing I have to ask you, and another thing that I really like about the game is the masterminds. You have different cards from that mastermind underneath. We had that with the Penny Arcade games first time, and I really like that they have this kind of mechanic incorporated in this game. It's like the circle of all the deck building games coming together in our household. I really like this one. It has a special place in my heart. And now I have a really, really unfair question for you. Out of the 3 legendaries that we have, do you have a favorite one? Or can you even name a favorite one? Or is it depending on your mood and the group of people that you play with?
We did this for the other Legendary games. So, assuming you don't have any of these or any Legendary game, and you don't have a lot of experience with deck building games, I would recommend you pick this up first. However, if you already have experience with deck building games, and want a little bit more variety in regards to you want to play cooperative and competitive, I would recommend the Predator version.
I'm with you.
If you know for sure that you probably will not want to play any competitive but want a really tough cooperative experience, I would suggest the Legendary Encounters Alien game. Although, we always pretend as if there is a competitive mode, or at least a competitive variant in the Alien game. We just never played it. And it's more of you have an additional agenda apart from whatever you're doing at the table that still felt a little bit disjointed to me looking into the rules. This here is a little bit more focused, you have victory points. Victory points are always easier to count than secret agendas. Although I have to say I really like the idea of someone getting infected and then becoming the alien and fighting against the other players. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but I like the idea of it. It starts out as a cooperative game, but if you're not good or don't pay attention...
It's kind of like Dead of Winter at one point.
It is.
Or, I don't know, Battlestar Galactica, you might have a traitor.
No, you have a traitor in Battlestar. It is actually very, very similar to Dead of Winter, where you are all in this together, but you might have someone that is against you, or you might have someone that
who's infected.
to fight against you at some point, although they didn't even know.
They don't want to.
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts on likes and dislikes, or shall we rate?
I think we can rate.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Tops. Awesome.
2 thumbs up. There's if you like the Marvel universe, or if you want to have a superhero game, I still think that as a cooperative experience, if you're looking for a superhero game that has a little bit more interaction or a little bit more going on, I would recommend Sentinels.
But Sentinels is not a deck building game. You got your deck there.
If you want to have a cooperative card game, which should be the words I'm using, you should go with Sentinels specifically, because those decks are fine-tuned, or at least there's some synergy effects within a deck and between different decks. Here, since it is a deck building game, you're limited with what comes out, and you're able to put into your deck to do that. That works, but if you want to fight with your favorite heroes from the comics and don't want some generic heroes, then this is the game. Let's hop into funny stories and experiences. One thing, and I remembered myself, I'm so proud of myself. You were saying that different heroes play better when you have them both in the HQ, or they bound, or they play well with the different kinds of card effects that they have. And there were 2 heroes that we played so far, and we played 10 different heroes so far, where it was way more obvious to me than it was with others, and those were Black Widow and Iron Man, funny enough. Those were the hero decks where I thought, oh, these really... well, if you have like 2 different Black Widow cards, the one that pulls bystanders underneath the villains, and the other that lets you kill those masterminds, or not bystanders, villains. That's really, really, really powerful, and it felt way more powerful to me than, for example, Gambit's actions or stuff. They were really strong, and the same was with Gambit
Iron Man.
Also is a kind of deck optimizing. Draw more cards, shuffle them into the correct order.
Correct, but
they're cheap.
Yes, but I felt
Gambit is cheap.
With Iron Man, I'd say Black Widow and maybe Wolverine. Captain America would be on spot number 4. You can really punch the mastermind and the villains. You really got some manpower there.
I like the Captain America cards because they...
Yeah, you played a lot with them. I didn't
They
have
require you to have a diverse deck of cards. Yeah. You need those different colors, but I like how those heroes try to bring their personality into the gameplay mechanics. Obviously, you're very limited there, and you can't go out as far as you want to. I have to say, I'm not disappointed, but I think they could have done a little bit more with Deadpool, for example. So the what's this? Oh, now I'm blanking on the name. There's a Deadpool equivalent for Sentinels, and he kind of plays a little bit with the fourth wall breaking thing, getting outside of the rules of the game and do whatever he wants to do. And they could have done that here too, and it's kind of a missed opportunity. He's just one guy like any other.
Maybe he will in expansions. We don't know.
Yeah, true. I think this won't be the last Legendary game. This might be the last that we're talking on here, because I don't
for a while, because we don't have any others
unless they're substantially different. But I'm kind of looking forward to see what Guardians of the Galaxy are looking like, or the Civil War stuff is looking like. There's one that just goes into the villains thing. Even though they may sound absurd, but as growing up, I really liked those weird versus comics. So I can totally get down bringing a couple of predators hunting bystanders and fighting against superheroes, or the other way around, you being the predators and having the biggest headhunt in the galaxy by trying to take down the most powerful of Earth.
Yeah, well, there's lots of opportunities there. But let's talk a bit about our experiences when we played. So we played it twice, just the two of us. We played against Red Skull and Loki. And Red Skull, I think, was the recommended villain or mastermind for the first game, right? So he felt actually kind of easy for me. Like me getting into
the scheme also was very straightforward.
But the second game, excuse my language, Loki was a goddamn bitch. He was really, really mean, as a mastermind. He was not straightforward.
I also think we had a tough time because the hero combination we chose there weren't a lot of heroes that hit very hard. Except for stuff like where Widow could hit.
And we chose heroes that we hadn't played in the first game. Yeah. So going back to Loki, I would probably now choose different heroes. But still, it was doable. But
missed opportunity. You should have taken Thor.
Yes, he was really, really just mean and annoying to hit at. I mean, we were killing ninjas and stuff left and right. No problem there. But to really get hits on Loki was
I have to say, so the combination we played were first one Loki, and second the scheme was portals to the Dark Dimension, and this is a scheme that ramps up the power of the bad guys, whereas you need more strikes to take them down. That in combination with, we have a couple of heroes here that at least the cards that came out don't hit that very hard, makes it quite difficult, and it kept on dragging on. And what I found interesting about that one, where the first game we played was a race for victory points.
Yes, this one
the second was, but there was a point where it's like, okay, we got to get our shit together. We need to take him down, or we will lose.
It was the Phil is sacrificing himself to get the heroes together and fight against that kind of moment in the movie, you know. But
Phil
funny,
being Phil Coulson, I hope.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We are going on a first name basis here. I'm sorry. No, but what I found interesting was you now having explained that the first one was more the race for the victory points. I felt you were more annoyed and not disappointed, but really annoyed because you didn't have a lot of strikes often.
I had a lot of turns where I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and you were way more annoyed, though you could maybe kill the ninjas, the smaller ones,
easily.
But to just make sure that we don't lose altogether, you just seemed way more annoyed to me, like frustrated. Annoyed is the wrong word. Frustrated that there were a few empty turns for you.
Yeah, that is. I mean, obviously, this comes with all of these types of games where if you have a couple of turns in
a row, it's the thunderstorm problem
where
for us.
You don't do a lot or anything at all.
Yeah, that's more like it.
That's annoying, and even though it's kind of your fault because it depends on what cards are in your deck, you're just limited by those 5 cards every time.
6. Sorry.
No, 5 cards that are in the HQ.
In the HQ. I thought in your hand. I'm sorry.
It's not like Dominion where you have the full kind of set of cards available to you at all time. You have to kind of roll with whatever comes out. That's a mist. That's what she said.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to go there for now.
I can't work in this punless situation.
Oh, babe. I'm the super knacky. The knack girl. My superpower is knack, knack, knack. You know? I'm not rolling with anything that comes out. I'm focused. I want to slay the villains. I don't have time for this stuff. Whatever. But yeah, I think it was fun. I'm actually pretty curious how this game plays with our full game group, like more than 2 players. Though I really enjoyed just playing just the 2 of us, having some you and me time at the table.
So we think we can wrap it into a teaser.
Yeah, let's wrap into the teaser for Draft Initiative. Next Wednesday, 9 a.m. CET, we will have a new game that Tina and I paint. And this one is also a cooperative game. There's a lot of murder going on and a lot of slaying, and you have to control the masses and make sure you hit your objectives and have fun with all the different kinds of weapons that you can slay folks with.
Mice and Mystics.
No, that was last week.
Crap.
Don't smile at me like that. I know what you're thinking. And you're right.
Imperial Assault.
Nope. That's one to paint.
Cooperative, slay the masses. It's probably a game that makes a kind of sociological comment, or a comment about society being kind of just following blindly consumerism and
I don't know.
Consuming brains.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, gosh. Hold on. I'm sorry. So, do you know which game it is?
Sushi Go.
No. Doesn't play in Japan.
It's also not cooperative.
That's true.
But brains.
So, do you know the game? The name of the game?
I think I do. Do you too? Find out on Wednesday.
9 a.m. CET.
And
on
now,
this channel.
Music. Outro,
No
done.
music. We're just talking outro while the outro screen comes in.
Then you finally click on that like and subscribe thing to make us go away.
Do it
Do it now.
Get to the chopper. Bye, everybody.
Lass knacken.
German lesson of the day. Go to your Google Translator and find out what we said. Bye.